My name is Akshat, and today I want to share a little bit more about my experience taking the GMAT, as well as my experience with target test prep, leading to the actual GMAT attempt that I did take. So, a little bit about myself. I work in management consulting, and I hope to go to a top business school one day that aligns with both my personal and professional goals, really for the key reason that I want to further my career prospects in different industries that I'm interested in. And I believe that the GMAT is a key lever to achieving those goals. I recently completed my undergrad and I studied economics, math, and data science, which played a bit more to the quant angle of the GMAT Focus Edition, and that's the reason I mention it. And I'll touch upon that in just a little bit. So, to give a little bit of context about my GMAT preparation and my scores, it's broadly divided into two parts. The first being my experience with the GMAT Original or the older edition, and the second being the GMAT Focus Edition. So for the GMAT Original Edition, my first diagnostic test score was around a 600, and that built up to a 700 in my actual GMAT attempt. Now that came with about 4 months of practice, and that primarily used non-TTP resources. The second phase was the GMAT Focus Edition prep, and that took about 4 more months. I scored 685 consistently in my mocks, with 655 in my first official attempt. And a month later, I took my final GMAT attempt and I scored a 715. So just to give a little bit of light on why I switched from the GMAT Original Edition to the GMAT Focus Edition, I believe there are two main reasons for this. One is within the verbal section. The lack of the sentence correction element played to my strengths, just because that was a point of difficulty for me. And the second being the data insight section. The GMAT Focus Edition weighs data insights more heavily than the original GMAT section, and given my quant background, I believe that that was a strength of mine, and that helped boost my score even more. So let's talk a little bit about my GMAT preparation and how I went about identifying pain points, what the entire journey looked like leading up to the 715 score. So for the first 4 months of preparation for the GMAT Original Edition, I primarily used other online resources, which were not target test prep. This helped me in numerous different ways, ranging from familiarizing different concepts, different theories when it came down to both the verbal and quant section, as well as help me get practice in for actual problems in a timed manner. However, there were a couple different issues that I faced with this level of preparation. The first being that there was limited flexibility when it came down to how I could push GMAT preparation around my schedule, given that I'm working full-time. The second essentially being that there was no division between easy, medium, and hard questions in the preparation I did. So just given that random mix of questions that I kept practicing, I wasn't exactly able to master the time element across these different questions, and particularly focus or drill down on the different difficulty levels of questions. And finally, there was a difficulty that I faced when it came down to like error logging and error tracking, which ended up being a very critical part of my final GMAT Focus Edition push to reach the score I did from a 655 over the span of 1 month. Now, the reason I decided to retake the GMAT was twofold, essentially. So the first is, while 700 was a good score to begin with, given the goals that I had, I believed a higher score was needed to reach the schools that I was aiming for. And secondly, and more importantly, the combination of scores I saw between the quant and verbal section varied a lot. So what this means is I outperformed in the quant section compared to the verbal in a couple of different mock tests I took. And in other mock tests I took, I outperformed in verbal compared to quant. Now, what this indicated to me was that I could score a higher combination between the quant and verbal sections, and that's something I wanted to strive for. However, I was not entirely sure about how to go about further preparation to actually reach that higher combination that I was looking for. And this changed when I came across TTP. Now, I found target test prep through multiple different online references, as well as a few friends who referred me to this resource. Now, using target test prep, I was initially a little skeptical just because of the self-paced nature of the course, as well as limited experience with it. So I decided to give it a try using the trial period that they offered. Now, Using target test prep, I essentially focused on the verbal section a bit more over the quant and data insight section for two primary reasons. One was that I had greater familiarity with the quant and data insights concepts, just given my background and my experiences leading up to taking the GMAT Focus Edition. And the second, essentially being the verbal section, seemed to be slightly more of a pain point for me compared to the quant section, especially when it came down to like critical reasoning preparation. Now, target test prep really boosted my preparation in a lot of different ways. The first being the self-paced flexible angle, which I was initially skeptical about, helped me out a lot because it helped me adapt my preparation cycles around different work schedules and work routines that I had. The second, the practice drills that target test prep had was very beneficial in from the point of view that it was divided by topic and it was also divided by difficulty level between easy, medium, and hard concepts. So how this helped me out was it helped me master the time element for these different difficulty levels of questions across multiple different topics. And this spanned from concepts that I could grasp a little more easily to concepts which seemed to be pain points for me. And finally, the most important point, in my opinion, was target test prep's error log that really boosted my preparation. So prior to taking the GMAT Focus Edition, when I was preparing for the GMAT original version, this seemed to be a difficulty for me because I was not necessarily able to easily identify patterns in terms of different questions I was getting wrong across all three sections. However, this changed with target test prep, as target test prep offered the flexibility of flagging different types of errors based on concepts as well as error types across all three sections and different difficulty levels. Now, when it came down to aiding my preparation in the 1 month between my two GMAT Focus Edition attempts, this really boosted my preparation because I was really able to drill down the types of mistakes I was making and come up with strategies on how I can avoid those mistakes now that I had a better sense of how the GMAT Focus Edition tested test takers, as well as the different patterns of errors I had been making previously. So to sum this up, I believe that target test prep is a great resource for any GMAT aspirant, and it's beneficial not just to really grasp the fundamentals that the GMAT is testing from a theoretical point of view across verbal, quant, and data insights concepts, but it also pushes you to rigorously do a lot of practice across different difficulty levels, where you can also keep a track of the time and really nail down the time element while mastering the concepts. So I believe that as long as you're disciplined when it comes down to taking the GMAT and using target test prep, even though the process overall might seem a little lengthy, as long as you're disciplined and you trust the process, I believe that you should be good to reach the score that you're aiming to reach. I wish all GMAT takers the best of luck, regardless of whether you're using target test prep or not. Thank you.